From day one, we were taught the meaning of sacrifice. A bunch of wide-eyed recruits, unsure about the future. Those who came before us confronted their mortality. They recognized the honor of sacrificing for an idea bigger than ourselves. We remember. True heroism is never sought. It's about serving others, no matter the cost. We are the beneficiaries of their sacrifice. When we say thank you, the highest honor is not to utter the words, but to live by them. We remember. And while our brothers and sisters might be gone, they will never be forgotten. We remember. As long as this flag flies over these United States, we will honor those who gave their lives for freedom, liberty, and most important, so their comrades could make it home safely. We remember. To those who made the ultimate sacrifice, we remember.
We remember. We remember.
We remember.
We remember.
Again, to the cold-blooded Johnny Cole show, HBCU Stroll. I have two gentlemen today. One's a CEO, Rudolph Johnson, and another one is a business owner. We kind of took a switch today because I wanted to talk to people outside of the game, not necessarily the football coaches. If you've been following me, you kind of heard some of their stories of how they able to handle this disparity between our white counterparts, our PWIs, and our HBCUs. It's a great thing for me in this opportunity for JM&E and AJ Zones and to give me this opportunity, this platform to try to bring some light and share some things with you, people that's following, that there's a disproportionate of black coaches that are out of work, black coaches that can't get work, and black coaches that there's not opportunity, and we're fighting over all those opportunities. I want to introduce you to my first guest, Mr. Rocky Miller. He's also my tax preparer, Prosperity Taxes. Tell your wife I got that right. And also with Slow
Burn Mobile Cigar Line.
So exactly. How you doing, Rocky?
I'm doing well, Coach Cole. I thank you for having me on the show, and I look forward to having the conversation. Like I say, my daughter is a student at an HBCU, and I am really interested in not only the history, what's going on now, but I'm really interested in understanding the history and the culture that HBCUs have to offer.
Yeah. Next on the agenda is somebody that's dear close to my heart, my old roommate in college. Man, it's been a long time. Also played fullback in my backfield. I know he'll say something about that later. great friend. He's like a brother to me. You know, this is the closest thing that I have to a brother. CEO for over 16 years, 40th top CEOs around the country. One of the most black famous guys out in San Diego in leadership role. My friend, Texas Southern former graduate, Mr. Rudolph Johnson III. How's it going, Coach?
Brother Cole, how are you, sir? It's good to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation. And, you know, HBCUs has prepared me for what I call that 6th minute in the room. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. And it's really, really good to see you on camera, my brother.
Well, hey, Coach, it's always good to see you. You know, I will be seeing you this summer. You know, just one of the things, first and foremost, I'm always support of black businesses, black guys in power, and both of you guys are. You know, Coach, and when I call you Coach, that's just something that I do. Coach Miller, look, just tell us a little bit. You know, you're a business owner. You've started from scratch. You know, this is about you guys as well. Just give us a real quick brief about, you know, I know you and your wife started this business from ground up, and just give us where you are today.
Well, where we are today, I can tell you that I also played a little football in college at Tyler Junior College. And I also after there, I went on to the military. And that, you know, joining the military actually changed my life. I developed the skills and discipline to kind of, you know, be in control of my own life and determine my own destiny. And so I used the knowledge and skills that I attained in the military to partner with my wife, who is the best partner a man could ever ask for. I would want to thank you, Keisha, for that. And we started a tax preparation company in 2004 that we have, you know, we had just a few customers in the beginning, but now almost 20 years later, we have over 600 customers. We have a thriving business, and we've taken that same blueprint of working together and developed our Slow Burn Mobile Cigar Lounge, which has been in business about 1.5 years now. We turned the passion of smoking cigars and spending time with the cigar community. We developed that into a business using those very same principles that we developed in the Prosperity Tax Service, which is being a customer-centric, customer-friendly business that is centered around providing excellent customer service.
Yeah, I want to, you said one word, and I like to just make sure these young folks understand, you know, now, you know, of course, you know, my kids is like, well, Dad, you wasn't around with the internet and people make money and all that. I said, let me tell you something that ain't gonna ever change. That's the word you use, passion. Passion ain't gonna ever change. You gotta have a passion for something. You can't look at somebody else's ideal and see how successful they are and be like, oh, well, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Oh, then next week, oh, I'm gonna do that. You know, passion, determination, you know, getting up, loving it, eating it, drinking it. So I'm glad that you said that, and I just want to pass that out to my listeners. Rudolph, man, we started from the dorms of Jones Hall, and look at you now, big CEO, one of the few African-American CEOs in the country, and you right from Texas Southern University. Catch us up.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, first of all, let me just say this. I'll never forget where I've come from. I've always wondered if Texas Southern forgets who I am as an alumni. Every day I wake up, I always pay tribute to the experience, the strength, and the hope that I gained through my experience at Texas Southern University. And I carry it with me day to day, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. I tell folks, you know, when I'm introduced or I'm doing something, the first thing they say is, out of Texas Southern University, right? So everywhere I go in the world, Texas Southern follows me. The one thing I think we have to do better as HBCUs at is following our alumni as they're climbing through their social ladder. I don't think we do a very good job of that. Needless to say, everything that I am, everything that I represent in my day-to-day routine, I learn by attending an HBCU. I was talking to a student earlier this morning before I got on the radio, and I was talking about what I call transferable skills. Those skills that we learn in HBCU, we learn on the field if we're playing sports, being on time, being professional, being excellent, understanding that folks are coming from all walks of life to run one play or execute one system. So when you get into the work world, you don't have a hard time adjusting because that's who you are, that's where you come from, and that's largely why a lot of HBCUs graduates are very successful at whatever it is they do and they're professional at. So it doesn't surprise me you have a lot of our graduates doing big things out there.
Yeah, and that's kind of, my theme today is, I got a businessman, I got a CEO. I want to give you guys some numbers because today's show is it's not necessarily about the people that's not choosing this. Is what you just said earlier, Rudy, about HBCUs got to do a better job of following their graduates and be able to salute them. We don't salute each other enough, and so we can move forward. I know one day that, and I'm gonna say it. Our president of Texas Southern, Dr. Young, is doing a fabulous job. Yeah. But one day I would hope that my school would reach back one day and choose alumnus as yourself. But let me throw some staggering numbers at both of you guys because I want to mix the business, the CEO. In all of college sports, I know we talk about the NFL. That's just 32 teams. That's 32 head jobs, and of course, assistant jobs. I get that. You got single owners. You really can't tell them what to do with their business. But Black folks pay state taxes in some of these state schools, okay? So in all the sports, athletic directors in Division 1, 2, and 3, there's a total of 88% of all the athletic directors who will make that choice for a college head coach are white. And that's a tough thing to overcome. But in all the sports, that's got mostly African Americans that's leading the way. The best athletes on the field are headed by whites. So when you guys hear those staggering numbers, what comes to your mind? Let's start back off with you, Coach Johnson, and then we'll move on. Rudy, I call you Rudy.
Well, the first thing there's about three main things, and we can drill down on them. Number one, we don't have the bench strength that we need to have to be in position to be ready. So we're not grooming individuals that are one or two levels below where we want them to be. So that's number one. We're not hiring them into the system. So number two, we're not developing our talent, and we're not looking to recruit individuals from external of the system into that system with the thought that we're going to develop them. That's number two. And then the third thing is really opening up what I call windows of opportunity for that talent. Once you bring them into your system, develop them, groom them, get them ready, we're not opening up that window of opportunity for them to be successful. So those are three things that we're probably not doing well that we need to do better if we want to be more successful with that.
Yeah. Mr. Miller, your thoughts on that, since that you're not an HBCU graduate, but you stay close to it, and we had some great conversations off the phone, so we got it now. It's your floor.
So I look at this as I look at many of the other cultural issues that I see in America today, right? Which means the people who provide access and opportunity are largely outside our community. And then those people who provide access and opportunity often use their network of people to hire, to mentor, and provide that what I consider a farm system or a bench, create a deep bench. And so they end up literally picking from the same pool of people. And you often, if you go look at the relationships of people in those positions, they have relationships that maybe span toward generations, meaning that they may have an uncle or a grandfather or a father who had a relationship with someone in that same industry or in that same position or even in that same school. And so I just think they're very insular sometimes in who they consider as a candidate, and that oftentimes, Coach Cole, unfortunately, leaves us out as black men.
Yeah, and I'm glad you again brought that up. Yeah, so I see both are saying that we're not teaching our talent and not raising our kids up to the level, or our graduates, or when they leave, we definitely not keeping up with them. And then I hear about relationships, and that's been one of my arguments about HBCUs. We think that once we go outside our pool, we're going to get better results. But not only are we giving away jobs, then those, whether they be another African American guy from a PWI school or a white guy come in, then again, like you just said, he gonna bring in guys that he got relationships. So that's putting out more HBCU graduates in the sporting arena. Right now, when you look at black colleges, both SWAC, MEAC, we got more Caucasians coaching our non-revenue sports than we do African Americans. So again, we're not even building a network in that area. We're actually sounds like, Rudy, we pouring dirt on that segment or that career that most of some of the African Americans want to get into. Your thoughts, Rudy?
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's so many things that so many rabbit holes to go down on this one, Jay. You and I always sit down and we have this conversation. Number one, we need to respect the degrees that we're issuing by way of these HBCUs. And what I mean by respect, just like Harvard, Stanford, Yale, all of these Ivy League schools or top-notch schools, they respect the degrees that they're issuing, and they're coming back and try to recapture their alumni to come in and do great things. We need to have that same mentality. That's number one. Number two, we have to respect the body of work that our graduates are engaged in. In other words, I run a company that is a $120 million a year operation with over 830 FTEs. If you know anything about business, that's a large drink of water to be swallowing on a daily basis operationally. However, Texas Southern probably doesn't fully understand or appreciate the depth and breadth and work that I'm engaged in. If you don't say a corporate name, sometimes in those HBCU environments, they really don't respect and appreciate what you're doing. And we have to change that. But I can't lastly, I'll say this, Johnny, you know me, I don't spend a lot of time on the negative, of what's not working and what I'm disappointed. I really spend a lot of time on how do I move this agenda.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to you, Rocky. What do you think some of the things that we as HBCUs and are missing? I mean, like you say, that's our network. And I remember me and you talking the other night. You was like, boy, y'all HBCUs, y'all kind of stick together. But at the end of the day, no, we don't. We stick together on BS. You know what I mean? I mean, I tell people all the time, what happened to me at Texas Southern University, being a graduate of that school, I had more alumni ready to throw me out the window with the bathwater and I shouldn't say that, more of the inside than anything. I felt that me being a graduate of there should have meant something, but it didn't. And that bothered me more than just actually losing the job. It bothered me that we let an outside entity come to our university and then screw up our whole football program over some things that we could have got over, but we didn't. So tell me, and I'm about a guy about solutions. You on the outside looking in. What you think?
So, as I said the other night, I think HBCUs do a poor job of touting their wins, meaning that there are a lot of successes within the HBCU community that they really don't promote. And I'll give you just one stat: just 42% of all Black engineers come from HBCUs, right?
Yes.
42%. So that means that industry respects HBCU graduates in the engineering field. Far, and it job of the job that you want, because a larger percentage of the HBCU student, there's a smaller number of HBCUs, right, as it relates to PWIs. So
right.
There are thousands of PWIs, and there's about 130 HBCUs, and in fact, they represent 42% of all engineers in the industry. So what they're saying is industry respects the product that HBCUs are putting out. In the coaching side of things, what happens is, I think we often look at the experience that someone has at a PWI as being more valuable than the experience that someone has within the HBCU. Now, I don't know why it seemed like that, Coach Cole, because, like I said, I'm not in the inner workings of that. But for whatever reason, it goes back to that ice is colder analogy. They think this is both Black and white coaches. Once they teach or once they coach at a PWI, a predominantly white institution, it seems by HBCUs that they're more valuable and they're more of a commodity. And that's not always the case, as history has shown. There's been very few white head coaches that have been successful in the SWAC and other conferences. Most of those championships, if you look down the line, were won by Black coaches and Black assistants. Go ahead.
Well, without a doubt, I mean, if you do the number and you do the work, which I have, there's been a lack of success from guys that came from PWIs into the HBCU realm. The problem of it is too is what's the signature of it, and we get away and we kind of punish ourselves. We accept the calling of our conference the Chitlin Circuit. I remember when I was coming up, what was the Chitlin Circuit, and that's just not true at all. And and we got to be able to get away from that, and we got to be able, like you said earlier, we got to be able to make a network. And again, talking to my listeners, that the thing about it is that until we start loving ourselves, nobody else will. I mean, in the state of Texas alone, at least 75% of all African American lawyers in the state of Texas come from Texas Southern Law School. Another 70% of all the African American pharmacists in the state of Texas come from Texas Southern Law School. Engineering is definitely, they come from Prairie View. Nurses, 70% of African American nurses come from Prairie View A&M in the state of Texas. So like you say, the industry outside of sports respect us, and that's the thing about sports, which is the billion-dollar industry. And it also is the biggest ambassador on any college campus. And then if you break it down even more, the football program is the biggest ambassador. And I think in HBCUs, we got to get out of the 60s. We got to get out of the 70s and start putting the dollars into our athletic programs. And when you put the dollars into our athletic programs, that's what pay the bills. That's what keep the electricity going. And that is where we'll be able to get the money that we need. Both of my listeners, both of my guests kind of clocked out. I think we have just a little technical difficult, but I just want to keep on talking about the things that we talked about earlier. We talked about networking. We're talking about building our talent. We talking about having a wave of Black college graduates. We talked about taking care of our graduates. One of the things that some of the Black campuses always talk about is about alumni giving, alumni give back, alumni give back. And, I've had arguments about that. And one, gentleman I had a lot of respect for, I don't want to name call, was like, oh, well, we should give back, man. We should give back. You can give back. You can afford to give back. Why we don't give back? And what I say, in a perfect world, yeah, we ought to give back. We ought to be able to get some, but it ain't a perfect world. And I believe that people give money to people, meaning relationships. And if you're in the newspaper every week about something negative, or you on social media about something being negative, or you one of your athletic teams are on television and really looking bad, fighting all on the sideline. And I know they do it at other places, but other places is not HBCUs. Other places is not African Americans in the United States. We know that the average family in the United States make about African American family make about $45,000. So they might can't afford to give money. But if you feel good about the people that's working on your university campus, if you feel good about how they treat you once you come on campus, I know myself. I've had some conversations with our athletic director, Mr. Granger, about building relationships with former athletes and former students to make sure they feel good about once they come on campus that somebody know them, or they feel good about being addressed when they come on campus, about the blood, sweat, and tears that they left on campus, as well as the money that
for some reason.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry
kind of
about
lost. I think we kind of lost Rudy and lost you at the same time.
that.
But one of the things that I was talking about was about alumni giving.
Mhm.
And in a perfect world, you would want to give back. But we got to understand, and that's why it's so important economically that we get some of these PWI jobs from making, 200,000 and 300,000 to making 2 or 3, 4 million, that we can provide for our community as well as our family, but we can't do that, and we can't not able to get back to our respective schools because 45,000 ain't a lot of money in a house. Yeah, Rudy, you back?
Can you hear me okay, man? I'm having a
Yes, we
lot
can
of
hear you.
technical
Yes.
difficulties. Sorry about that.
But
Man.
we all right. So I was talking about alumni giving, and my take on it that people give money to people. They don't give money to buildings. You got to get out of that. So we need to make sure that we work on our public service. I give you example, Rudy, and what you do for our university at Texas Southern, and they probably don't even know that you bring your staff there to try to hire Texas Southern graduates into your program. I think you got a summer program as well. How did that make you feel as alumnus, trying to reach back?
Well, it's always difficult when you're trying to, build a bridge and make a connection with an institution that you care so much about, and it can be lukewarm on the other end. But let me just say, HBCUs in general have been difficult to reach. I'm not just trying to build a bridge with Texas Southern. I'm trying to build a bridge with any HBCU institution that is out there and is willing to be receptive to creating opportunities for some of their graduates to go to work, which I would think would be everyone. I thought that's the purpose of matriculating youngsters, is to put them to work. So let me just say out here on the air, any HBCU that is interested in having us come to their campus and recruit and do town halls and really educate these youngsters on how to prepare themselves to enter into the C-suite of a business, we're all ears.
Well, I want to make sure my listeners understand this ain't a beat up HBCU day. This is a day of learning, a day of hearing some of the things that we need to change, because we got to get our house straight first. We got to get our house. And one of the things, that I'm looking to do, and I'm putting together a list of 20 coaches that we feel that can go to the next level. Because when I started the business back in the 80s, Rudy, you follow me, they used to come out with 20 coaches, Mr. Miller, 20 head coach, but all of them coached at the PWI schools. Not one black college head coach was on that list. And so
can I just say, let me just say,
but go ahead.
Let me just say two things. Number one, because you asked me a specific question, and let me just get right to it. I'd love to write a check to Texas Southern. So if Texas Southern is listening, they can contact me. We can write a check to support either athletics or individuals in need. Reach out. I'm Rudy Johnson at neighborhoodhouse.org. That's number one. Let me just cut to that. Number two, let me just say, I'm operating in a situation similar to what you're talking about in the coaching arena. You can be hell on the Division 1A level, but never get an opportunity to go Division 1. I'm doing okay. I'm in my 16th year here at the Neighborhood House Association, but organizations like the San Diego Foundation, the San Diego YMCA, Red Cross, traditional organizations run by individuals that don't look like me, they have a hard time giving an individual like me an opportunity to run those organizations, even though I'm in my 16th year of running a $120 million operation. And that's $120 million a year. Let's get that straight. In 830 FTEs. So I guess what I'm saying to you, J. Cole, it's not just the football world where we have issues with leadership. It follows you into the professional arena and the business world as well. You can be great at that little Division 1 AA level, but not get that nod to go to the next level, which is, the Division 1 level, where they have the pretty stadiums and all the recruiting money in the world and enough to pay your assistant coaches to come in. So that dynamic happens in business as well. I just wanted to make that really, really clear to your listeners.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And we can't eat the whole pie. I just want to work on our section, and I'm glad you shared that you running those is either. Mr. Miller, go ahead.
And so I would say that is the case in most industries, even when you're talking about contracts and things of that nature. I go back to something I said earlier. A lot of the opportunities are born out of relationships that probably predated you and I even being born. And a lot of times those relationships, I don't know exactly how to battle those relationships and let, other than confront them head on and let them know that, let the systems that be know that there are people out there that want opportunities, who deserve opportunities, who should have opportunities, who may not necessarily look like you, and they should be in the room when those decisions are made. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, my show was all predicated, of course, I'm a former football coach, and being in athletics, is looking at the athletic arena where the unfairness is so much of a despair. And, the show, is necessary about bringing awareness to black people, businessmen and CEOs like yourself, to know, the struggle and the fight. And, and that's why I guys bring you on to give us another perspective. And as you both have, said that, it happens, it's happening in the CEO arena, it happened in the business arena. So here's my question to you guys, and I want you to put your football hats on, because both of you was former football players. Y'all know about the game. Y'all know about the problems. Is some solutions. Let's start with you, Mr. Miller. If you looked at some solutions, or if you was in a place, what are some solutions that I could take back to my colleagues and tell them this is what we need to do?
The first thing I would do as far as HBCUs is I would put all of our athletic programs and academic programs on a pedestal. I would tout the wins and the prominence of those programs. The engineering program at PV, the nursing program at PV, everybody in the state of Texas would know what quality of student we have and what quality that we're putting out. And they would know the same thing about the quality of the head coach, assistant coaches, as well as the type of people we're looking for on the field to play on our field. Everyone would know that, and everyone would know what PV standard is. And so I think that starts out with a really strong marketing plan that brands your university as an elite learning institution and a athletic, and that you value athletics, and that your athletic program is also striving to be elite as well.
Yeah. Rudy, Coach Johnson, what you got, baby? Tell me something good. Your mic.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was just saying, the listeners may not know that you and I talk almost every single morning on our ride in about just life, fatherhood, business, coaching. I feel like I'm a college coach, vicariously living through my brother J. Cole. So with that said, let me offer some solutions. Number one, I always tell you, Johnny, when you have an issue, you really have to look at the top of the organization to really dictate changes, right? So at the policy level, how do we look? In other words, is there a level of diversity sitting around that policy table that are making the decisions on the presidents of the university? Are the presidents as diverse that are making decisions on athletic directors, ADs, making decisions on head coaches, etc.? So I always say, look at the top of the organization and make sure the board development or the board creation is as diverse as you want change to be. That's number one. Number two, when we look at Division I, they have to really look at their system of selecting head coaches. I know the NFL had a dust up recently with respect to how they're interviewing these African-American candidates, but they're not placing them. And one of the things I said to you and my other friends was, what was that interview panel made, who were they made up of, right, that are placing these head coaches? So at the Division I level, how do those interview panels look? Because I may bring skill set coming from a Division I AA HBCU but that may not be germane to the conversation when you're interviewing a Division I college. In other words, a Division I AA HBCU college, and you said, coach, and you said this, Johnny, to me a number of times, has to be everything from a coach to a therapist to you got to tape some ankles. You gotta feed your kids. Coach, it's jack of all trades, and that skill set may not be important to University of Alabama or LSU or somebody like that. They may say, "Oh man, he's doing too much," but we know that takes a certain skill set. So that, and then the last thing I'll say is someone has to be right there, ready to open up that door of opportunity for the person that is coming out of that system into these Division I systems. Without that door of opportunity being open, you never get an opportunity to perform. And if you don't get an opportunity to perform, you're invisible.
Yeah. Well, you said some things, and that's why, when these HBCUs are picking these head coaches coming from these PWIs, it's ludicrous to me to bring a guy from a Division I school that all he has to do is coach. And usually we get an assistant coach because we can't pay him financially just about. We get an assistant coach. All these coaches, the tight ends or the linebackers, just one position and maybe 6 or 7, 8 kids. And then he'll come in and take a job from a guy who have my potential. It's ludicrous. It's like, how you think he can be successful when all he's done was coach? And we need more than that. But both of you have both said that we on those college campuses got to make those areas more valuable. Our academics, pharmacy, law schools, nursing schools, valuable. Our athletics, it goes hand in hand. I'm here now in a public school system, and I hear the same thing here. Oh, we always got to take care of the classroom. I'm in facility maintenance. We got to take care of the classroom. Well, the basketball arena is the classroom. The football arena is the classroom. And so when you see these inner city programs like the one I am being tore down because our administration, like you said, Rudy, starts from the top. Don't understand that it's the whole thing that develops student athletes, not just athletics, not just academics. It's the whole model, and a lot of that comes from, like you both said, it starts from the top down, and it starts relationships. So when I look at the college realm, then my job is I got to start with the NCAA to somehow get in front of some people who going to make some real choices and some real decisions about trying to change this makeup of 88% of white athletic directors are white, because they're going to pick people who look like them. Go ahead, man.
But I just like to say this about HBCUs and whatever. In PWIs, they make it pretty clear what their measures of success are as it relates to coaching, right? It's generally centered around winning or some level of success at some level, right? For HBCUs, their measurement for success or requirements to hold that position are really arbitrary. There's really no standard there that you can speak of to say that a person needs this or that type of experience to have that job. Because just in Alabama Alabama State, they just hired a guy who was a real estate agent and made him the head of their football program. So that makes you question, what is the criteria for being a head coach at a HBCU Division I program if you can hire a guy who's been in real estate the last 10 years?
Yeah,
as your head coach.
Yeah. It happens, and both of you guys know, evidently, it happens. But here's the problem: we can't afford it. We can't afford to make mistakes like that because they so glaring. We're so small And then when we make a decision like that, and if he don't be successful, it's glaring. You know, it's glaring. You will see that. You know, out of 20 Division I AA schools.
I say no. I would just say, would Alabama, would a PWI on any level in Alabama make that same decision? And I'm not saying that our standards should be in line with PWIs. Our standards should be reasonable standards. You know, a person should have a certain level of experience in coaching before they get the job, and not to jump on Eddie Robinson in Alabama State. But the fact of the matter is that makes for a pretty low bar, Rudy and Coach Cole, if you can be in real estate for 10 years and get the highest paid coaching job on your campus. Yeah. You know, you can move right into that job without any previous experience. Go ahead,
Ru.
Yeah. Because I think we're saying a lot of they and we're talking in abstract language. And to me, when we're talking about HBCUs, we're talking about one of three things: either their board of trustees, their president, or their athletic director. And I think we should be very specific about that, because you can't let folks off the hook and talk in these loose terms like, Texas Southern should have. Well, who is Texas Southern? It's the board of trustees. It's the president of the university. It's the AD. Those are the folks that are paid to make these decisions on who will be coaching these various, sporting teams. And so I think we got to stop letting those individuals off the hook, number one. And then secondarily, I will say, I think there needs to be an opportunity where we as African Americans at HBCUs that are in positions of what I would call, they're the hiring authority, which means they're in positions of, decision-making, critical decision-making positions, need to create opportunities to train and develop our talent and nurture them for internal opportunities or external opportunities. We have to be competitive for those Division I opportunities. And the only way to be competitive is to have what I call that body of work that you need to go into an interview and really be able to articulate your vision. And I'll say this last thing: the difference between running an organization and, just kind of being a team member is your ability to articulate, Coach Cole, your recipe, your vision for success. See, that travels with you from position to position. That doesn't stay with the institution.
And it's supposed to mean something. So when those positions open up, that's supposed to mean something. I'm going to turn the corner real quick because we getting close, out of time. And this is just part one. We gonna go part two. We just start. We gonna get it together again. The MEAC, all right, are starting to move all their teams over to the conference. What conference is that, Mr. Miller?
It's the Colonial Conference.
The Colonial Conference, right? And they're moving over there, quote unquote, for more money. But I heard A&T actually lost money for going over there because now people are not coming to the games. And I always thought that the SWAC and the MEAC should came together a long time ago because black college football has something to sell. Our field's 100-yard long, 53 yards wide. I've always thought that we could have came together as a classic. When we seen Notre Dame make the contract with ABC, then you seen the SEC came and got that big old TV package. All we got to do is follow the leader. Those 20 teams could have came together, took all the classic games. So each week, people will know that people come out and see black college football and tailgate and cook briskies and chitlins and all that we do as black folks. And we didn't do it. So now these schools are running over there and they almost have destroyed the MEAC. And they really don't want them over there. They want our band and they want the football team to play over there. So when our team in the MEAC travel to those PWI schools, all the folks will show up. They'll make a whole bunch of money that weekend. And then when A&T and Howard and those schools moving over there play their home games, none of those schools people will show up. The MEAC and the SWAC average more fans than most, I'm not saying most, the lower 1A schools, the attendance. So go ahead, Rudy. I just take that. How you feel about that? And go ahead, make it short and sweet.
There's a place for HBCUs, and I want to protect protect the integrity of HBCU system. So let me just be clear about that. I think we need to do a better job, again, at taking care of our own business. That's the second point. And I don't think you have an opportunity for folks to pick your teams off if you're handling your business in a responsible way. And then the last thing I'll say is, we have to understand what our value is as an HBCU system. So the MEAC, the SWAC, they have to sit down and determine their economic value and positioning in all of this so that they don't get picked off and they don't get lured away, and they can be stronger together. So I'll keep it short.
Yeah. Mr. Miller.
Well, like I say, I just think when you're in a conference, you all have to have common goals. And I think you have to always reaffirm those goals and those values each and every year. And for whatever reason, A&T and Howard, they had conflicting goals and conflicting values, and it creates the situation that you have now of defection. But again, and also we have to understand that some of these schools are state institutions, so they could have influences from outside the HBC community that encourages them or even incentivizes them to break up the MEAC. So you have to consider that as a possibility as well. But at the end of the day, I think I agree with Mr. Johnson is that HBCU experience as a whole is very valuable, not only to our community, but the entire United States. And we have to treat it as such, and we have to continue to promote it.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing, Jay, to get back to the policy and the politic body and everything, the political body. So it's my understanding in most of these situations, HBCUs are generally located in that southern border, which are generally red states, which generally suggests to me that state legislators, which are pretty red, are appointing their board of trustees in most cases with conservative members. And to Mr. Miller's point, you just ask yourself the question, how successful do they really want these HBCUs to be? How much power do they really want them to garner, right? How much change do they really want them to affect? And so, that's a deeper question for another show.
Well, that's a whole nother show there, Coach.
That's a whole, I just put a whole bunch on the table. But,
hey,
Coach,
hey,
I'm just saying.
I only got quarterback shoulder pads, baby. I ain't got O-line shoulder pads.
I'm done.
No, hey, guys, you guys are hitting it big. This problem I'm trying to tackle, it's just so big and so large. And like you said, the politic part of it, and some of these schools that's in red states and got Republicans leading the way. And it's just a different matter. Look, we coming down to the end, of this. I know both of you guys, we can probably do this one-on-one and you guys can talk forever. I just want to make sure that, it ain't always just coaches I'm talking to, and getting ideas from you guys and putting in my head. I'm trying to, like I said, just make America aware that I don't want to say it's a racial problem. I don't want to say that, but it's an unfair problem. Opportunities for African-American coaches, men and women. It's just such a disparity when all your constituents are not all, but most are African Americans. So if we can play the game, we should be able to coach a game. And it is like that all the way through, not just the head coach, the assistant coach, the head trainer, the general manager, I thought it was better in basketball, in college basketball. But it's only 24%, which is a quarter of coaches in basketball that are black. And of course, football is down in the 10%, and it's even lower when you start talking about 1AA schools, Division II schools, and Division III schools, which don't make any sense. Last words, Mr. Miller. Go ahead.
No,
We got time, so don't feel like you got to rush. We got some time.
No. I just think this is a great topic when you talk about integrating, HBCU football into mainstream society and making it something that is accepted not just by people in our community, but people outside of our community. And I think it's incumbent on the institutions to put a spotlight on all the things that HBCUs have collectively, and then for Texas Southern, Prairie View, South Carolina State, Jackson State, whomever, to highlight their individual sports and their individual programs. I sincerely believe that HBCUs have a marketing branding issue in America. And if they did a better job of marketing and branding, some of the issues they have related to the lack of contributions, the lack of coverage, all those things can be improved just by giving themselves a better platform, a better brand, by promoting themselves and giving, because you don't have to make up things up about HBCUs. They're great all in and of themselves. They just have to be. We don't know the stories and we don't know the facts and figures around the successes in HBCUs if HBCUs tell it, because certainly ABC, NBC, MSNBC, they're not going to tell their story. They're going to have to tell it themselves, and that's what I'll say.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I'm gonna take a little different approach. I think divine intervention always happens in life. It always shows up just when you think you're at the end of your rope. And I think, a couple years ago, it started, unfortunately, with the unrest associated with, African American, mostly men, some young women being either beaten or killed by the police forces around the country, which started this whole Black Lives Matter initiative, et cetera. So I think we're kind of not on the back end, but towards the middle back end of social engagement that is perfect timing for issues like this to come to light. And I think we need to start challenging these elected officials to populate trustee boards, board of regents, whatever you want to call it, that are going to be more receptive to hiring presidents that are receptive to African American coaches coming online at the Division I level. And we just have to push for that, just like we push for all the other civil rights changes in America. So I don't feel, like this is a losing conversation. I feel like we're just getting started at the Division I level. Number two, we need to protect our HBCU systems. The systems are broken. I do agree with Mr. Miller. The branding is off. We don't understand our economic positioning and how we can travel the country to places where there are no HBCUs, where they are starving to see Black college in action. Yeah. San Diego is one of those cities. I'm in the middle of trying to bring an HBCU game, and I know the value of that game. It's in the millions. And so HBCUs, get together and understand their economic position, either the MEAC, CIAA, SWAC, and what's the fourth conference I'm missing?
SIAC.
SIAC.
Yeah.
Right. So SIAC if they get together and they have some kind of body that bands them together from an economic positioning perspective, I think we can get a lot of work done. And then finally, Jay, I'm gonna end where I started. We have to be willing to give each other windows of opportunity. Not when we get into these places, we shut off who we are, where we come from, and hire in a whole different direction. That is the time to really step into it and double down on the fact that you've arrived and you're one of the pioneers, and you need to reach back and get you 2 or 3 coordinators that look like you, give them that experience so they can go on and build their team, etc. So I would leave the audience with that. I think we need to do all these 3 things, and I'm willing to help.
Yeah. Well, to my audience that, I brought 2 gentlemen on that has a different perspective, not just only from the coach's perspective, but Rudy's been a CEO for 16 years, and Mr. Miller's owned his own business for the last 20 years almost. And, we could think, and the things I've heard about marketing and branding and make sure we take care of ourselves. And those are things that I thought that I wanted this conversation to be. And I think we hit it on the target, as we got to make sure we keep our own house straight and clean and going in the right direction and have a plan. And, again, if you don't forget where we came from, and a lot of this position, and you guys know, came from 400 years ago. And I know sometimes our counterparts don't understand, well, how can something happen 400 years ago happen today? Well, I'm going to leave by saying this. If you was in a track meet and it was me and you got a problem with what I just said, and the gun goes off and 2 guys hold me at the start and you take off running, then now you hit in the corner, then now you're on the back straightaway, and then you let me go. Well, that's where it was. When we were freed of slavery, we had no land, no voice, no money, no education. And so that has been going on from year to year to year. And America was made off of free labor, which was off the backs of our ancestors. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you guys can come with that. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Mr. Miller. That's part 1. We'll definitely be back, and we'll get into the politics side of it. But again, to my Black folks, to my listening orders, thank you. Next week, same time, same place. Peace, joy, and happiness.
My name is James Jeter, and I won $500 on the lunch money for keeping up with the Joneses Bracket Challenge.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today is Monday, May 29th, 2023, and we are paying tribute and thanks to all of those who gave their lives in service to this country. Number 1, Tina Turner died last week after a long illness in her home near Zurich, Switzerland. During the latter years of her life, the Proud Mary artist opened up about battling several health issues, including high blood pressure, vertigo, a stroke, intestinal cancer, and kidney failure. Celebrities including Beyonce, Angela Bassett, Mariah Carey, and Oprah Winfrey are remembering the icon's legacy via tributes shared to social media, as did yours truly. Number 2, Vice President Kamala Harris made history Saturday as the first woman to deliver a commencement address at the military academy at West Point. West Point is one of the military institutions that made a slow crawl toward progress in an era of diversity over the more than 4 decades since women were admitted to the all-male institution in the fall of 1976. The classes of 1980 broke ground as the first to have women graduate from the U.S. Military Academy, the Air Force Academy, and the Coast Guard Academy. Number 3, as a result of recent lawsuits against celebrities, herpes, the incurable sexually transmitted infection, has been in the news a lot lately. But what's also been swirling on the internet are a lot of misinformation and myths about what herpes really is. how it's transmitted, and what puts you at risk. Herpes is a common viral infection caused by two different but similar viruses, herpes simplex virus type 1 and herpes simplex virus type 2. Read more about the symptoms in today's newsletter. Number 4. Demands are on the rise for the firing of an Indianola, Mississippi policeman after the shooting of an 11-year-old black boy in the chest. The child, identified as Adarian Murray, called authorities at the request of his mother, Nikayla, as a domestic disturbance escalated when the father of one of her children arrived at the family home. A local TV station reported that 2 officers responded and one kicked the front door before Nikayla Murray opened it. She told them the intruder was gone, but 3 children were inside. Police officer Greg Capers shot the boy immediately, hitting him in the chest. The Mississippi Department of Public Safety announced the State Bureau of Investigation is currently assessing this critical incident and gathering evidence about the shooting by the African-American policeman. Number 5. When most folks think about dancing, what comes to mind is a secular activity that people do to have fun and express themselves at nightclubs or parties. But dancing is also done to celebrate and worship God. The Bible encourages us to dance. Psalm 149, 2 and 3 reads, "Let Israel rejoice in their Maker. Let the people in Zion rejoice in their King." Embrace that dancing spirit when it hits you, wherever you are, for spiritual dance is a ministry that needs to be seen and heard. Check out more from Willie Mae McIver on Ministry Monday in our newsletter. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. Wise people know that they don't know everything and are open to the counsel of the wise. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, as we discuss today's top headlines and more. Thank you to our What You Need to Know partners, the American Heart Association and Black Health Matters. To subscribe to my free daily newsletter, please visit SibylWilkes.com. Be informed, be empowered.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.